for Thursday, September 25th, 2025. Before we get started, I just have a couple of quick announcements I want to make. First of all, I want to welcome our newest member of the board, Mr. Nadeem Akbar, who joined us. This is his first meeting. We got sworn in 3 weeks ago, and he's been in a fast learning curve over the past couple of weeks. Nadeem, welcome to the board. We look forward to getting to know you better and to your contributions to policing and public safety in Halton region. Thank you. Thank you. Looking forward. Thank you. Second announcement I'd like to make is that I just want to wish a belated happy birthday to Chief Tanner, who celebrated his 29th birthday last Wednesday. So congratulations on that milestone. With that, I would like to, I'm just going to, Jessica, you sent that email to me?
I did.
Okay, 1 second here.
Yes, why not?
Before we get into our meeting, I'd like to read our territorial acknowledgement, especially in light of the 30th, which is coming up, which is Indigenous Recognition Day, and we want to read our acknowledgement that the Halton Police Board acknowledges that we gather for this meeting on the treaty lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Huron-Wendat, and the Anishinaabe. No matter our origins, our lives are intertwined through the shared earth beneath us, the water we consume, and the air that we breathe. As those responsible for the governance and the security of all who gather on this land we now call Halton, we are committed to the path of truth and reconciliation in our words and in our actions, and call on those watching this meeting to do the same. Madam Committee, well, what is your title now? Madam Board of Operations Manager, do we have any regrets today?
Lisa Kearns has regrets.
Lisa Kearns is representing the region of Halton in Ghana right now, so we wish her safe travels, and we look forward to seeing her when she's back with lots of adventures from her trip. Yeah, and that's a trip that Samira
did last year.
Yeah. Members of the board, any disclosures of conflict of interest? Nav?
Yeah, just out of abundance of cautions for the community fund, there's an organization there that I do volunteer for from time to time.
Great, thank you. And I have a declaration, Madam Vice Chair. My declaration is that on the confidential agenda there is an appointment that pertains to my son, and I will be absenting the chair at the time and calling upon the vice chair to call that vote. So I'm declaring that conflict as well. 1.4 is the confirmation of the minutes that were held of the meeting held on Thursday, August 28th. Members of the board, can I get a motion to approve those minutes as circulated? Nadeem, do you want to give us our first motion? Your first motion, there you go. Moved by Nadeem, seconded by Jane. Thank you. Any comments, questions, errors, or omissions? I'm not seeing any. I'll call the question. All in favor of the approval of the minutes? Thank you. Members of the board and to those present, we have one presentation today, and I believe that it is virtual, and this is Inspector Gates from the Barrie Police Service to talk to us about the 34 initiative. Do we have her online?
I've just admitted her.
Okay. So we'll see her at some point on the screen before us. While we're waiting, I'll indicate that a number of us were at the OAPSB meeting, the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards, earlier this year, and we heard Inspector Gates' presentation, and we're interested in hearing more about the program, and so that's why she was invited to speak at today's board meeting. Oh, good morning, Inspector Gates.
Good morning.
You have 15 minutes. We're great. You have 50 minutes for your presentation. We're looking forward to it, so you have the floor.
Excellent, thank you. So I think we're just going to share our screen here. Victoria's just going to pull that up. So while she does that, yes, so we're just wanting to speak with you today about a new initiative that we are working on across Canada to increase the representation of women in policing. As mentioned, my name is Val Gates. I'm an inspector here at the Barrie Police Service. I am in charge of investigative services. However, this is sort of a passion project that we are working on the side of my desk. With me today, go ahead, Victoria.
Hello, everyone. My name is Victoria Timilovich. I'm the business planner and analyst with the Barrie Police Service.
Okay, great. So we just want to start by grounding this in a little bit of the research and the why for 30 Forward. So over the past 2 decades, there has been numerous studies done on women in policing, and this has happened in places such as Canada, the US, UK, and Australia. And these research-backed performance outcomes that are consistently tied to women are shown here on the screen. So we know that women they tend to use force less often, and when they do, it is less excessive. They use more discretion with lower level nonviolent offenses. And I think very many communities across Ontario, and I would probably even say the country, are struggling with sort of encampments and homelessness and addiction. So that's a really good thing to be able to use that discretion in those sort of situations. We also know the research shows that women officers see better outcomes for crime victims, especially those of sexual assault. They do conduct fewer searches during traffic stops. However, when they do conduct those searches, they're more likely to find contraband, which really leads to sort of that intelligence-led bias-free policing. Women are often and consistently perceived as being more honest and compassionate. And some newer research is starting to show that women are costing between 2.5 and 5.5 less than their male officers when it comes to complaints and lawsuits. So when we look at what the current landscape is in policing across Canada, right now, women make up about 22.87% of police officers. So it is a modest number, but in 1993, we were only at about 8%. We did see a 10% increase by 2010. However, from 2010 to 2015, and then again from 2015 to 2020, we are starting to only see 2% increases there. But the concerning part is from 2020 to 2023, less than 1. So we're at 0.9% of female representation. So that rate of progress really is slowing, and it is concerning. This is during a time when services are really starting to modernize and diversify and sort of enhance that public trust within their communities. So it just shows us it's not going to occur just over time. We have to be intentional and deliberate in our actions. So then when we break that down to see what ranks women are holding, so 71.7% are constables, 24.5% are those non-commissioned officers, and then 3.8% are commissioned officers. So what that is showing us is that women are sort of concentrated in those frontline positions. Very few are moving into the ranks where those decisions are made about, hiring, culture, that sort of thing. And it isn't a reflection of talent or ambition. Women really want to do these, to be advanced, but it is a reflection of sort of that structure. So it tells us that it's not just about recruiting women into the profession, but we need to build those pathways to support them, to help them thrive and lead within this profession. So that's where we lean on the critical mass theory. So that 30%, that 30 number is not arbitrary. So the theory of critical mass tells us that those underrepresented populations, when they make up 30% of the group, that's when they really can start to influence policy and culture and decision making, not just taking part of it. So in policing, we are not there yet, not nationally, certainly not in the senior ranks. So, but this is really a benchmark that we can work towards, and that really is what 30 Forward is about. It is not about quotas, and I want to make sure that that is very clear. It is about building those consistent, visible presence that can really drive that culture change and strengthen those leadership pipelines. So the research also shows us what can happen when we reach that 30% mark. And that is where we start to see that real sustainable change inside those organizations, not just in the numbers, but in the culture itself. So when we reach that 30%, you start to see those systemic cultural changes. So because those behaviors and expectations and leadership styles start to diversify. We will start to see healthier workplace dynamics. So you'll see reductions in harassment and improvements in team function. There will be a movement beyond tokenism, where women are no longer seen as the exception, but as part of that norm. And then you're going to see those strong mentorship networks that actually have that critical mass to sustain those junior officers throughout their careers. And then lastly, it pushes that policy and reform from within, not just as an outside pressure, because you're starting to rely on some of those lived experiences to help inform better decisions. So when we take a look across Canada, you'll notice that there isn't a province that has received that 30% or has reached that 30% threshold. There are some that are getting close, but there really is no consistent standard nationally. And so there's no accountability framework to move those services towards that tipping point. And so that's why 30 Forward focuses not just on numbers, it's going to be on systems, supports, and that strategy, because one province that's doing well and getting there doesn't automatically translate into other provinces getting better as well. So what are we doing about that? So 30 by 30 is a US initiative. They started in 2023, and their goal was to increase the representation of women in recruit classes by 2030. They have about 400 services in the US that have signed on. They are specific to the gaps and the needs for women in policing in the US. I had the opportunity to meet the co-founder of 30 by 30 about a year ago at a conference and witnessed a presentation similar to what I am doing for you right now, and got a little bit inspired by this approach, but started thinking, what could we do in Canada? We are unique. We'd like to tailor it to what we're hearing about the gaps for women in Canada. So that is sort of the basis of where 30 Forward came from. Really wanted to create something that spoke to the women within our country, but really launching off the success that 30 by 30 already had. So where did we start? We started looking what the current research says just in Canada for women in policing. And so over the past decade, we have seen a growing body of Canadian research. So it's not just one-off studies. These are consistent research projects that have started. But what we were noting is that we were seeing the same themes that were showing up in 2012 are still showing up in 2024. So it's clear that we're not lacking the research and we're not lacking insight. But what we are kind of missing is that structural momentum and that coordinated response. Because until we reach that 30% tipping point, so until we build those conditions for that true equity, we are relying on a very small number of women to carry the weight of that representation and that mentorship and that change. And that really just is not sustainable. So what we've learned from that research that I just spoke about, the consistent things that we are hearing, the themes around persistent barriers to promotion and return to work, gender expectations, gender performance expectations, retention challenges linked to culture, and that lack of mentorship. We are hearing a lot about lack of mentorship through this work. So where did we start? Again, we took the research and then we started conducting focus groups across the country. So we have conducted these focus groups with over 100 women and allies. And through that work and through the research that we were looking at, we started to develop themes and pillars for 30 Forward. So what we're going to focus on for 30 Forward is that recruitment and hiring, retention and family support, mentorship and leadership development, allyship and inclusive culture, and we are building a national resource hub. So this will be an opportunity for services that sign on. They will have access to best practices, to research, to mentorship networks, because we really want to develop this to set services up for success. So currently we are about to review, or we're about to launch in October, the 30 Forward. Part of that will also give access to those that sign on to the literature review that has been conducted by Wilfrid Laurier University. We have research assigned to this now. They took a deeper dive into that research that's available on Canadian women in policing. They then created a research brief for us to make that a bit of an easier read. From that, and as well as from the focus group report that will also be launched in October, from all of the research that we found and everything that we heard during those focus groups, we have developed the pledge that will be available for signing on that date. It will, when services sign up, they will also get a baseline measures that we will expect back within 6 months, but we'll also send them a social media toolkit, lots of opportunities to connect, a mentorship network. So that is all going to happen on October the 9th. I also just wanted to point out applied police briefings. I don't know if you guys have access to this, but we have in the month of September been featured in that along with 30 by 30 with all of the research that really ties all of this together. There's some research, Canadian research, and there's a lot of US research in that applied police briefings talking about women in policing. We also have a LinkedIn page, so if anyone is interested, you can scan that barcode right there. That'll take you to that LinkedIn page. That was our attempt through everything to keep everybody up to date on what's happening with 30 Forward and the work that's happening. We did a little bit of education and awareness around the history of women in policing. So yeah, we invite you to join that page. We will have everything accessible from that LinkedIn page as well after we launch. We are proud to highlight those that have endorsed us and supported us. We are endorsed by the OACP, by the Ontario Women in Law Enforcement, by the International Association of Women in Policing, Advancing We in Policing, our advisors from 30 by 30, Coalition for Canadian Police Reform. We had many services put up their hand as we started this work saying, we support this. We will make sure that we're in a position to sign when this launch is ready. So we actually have a few more now. We have Toronto as well as LaSalle that have shown their early support as well. So what are our next steps? As I mentioned, the pledge launch will occur on October the 9th. From there, within 6 months, we will expect those baseline measures back, and then we will build that dashboard. There will be some that's public facing so that everybody can see the work that 30 Forward is doing, and then members will have access to different measures. After that, we will be offering training for mentorship and allyship. A big piece of 30 Forward that is not really a focus of 30 by 30 is that allyship piece. We really want to be intentional. We cannot do this work without the allyship, so we really will focus on allyship and how we can foster that in 30 Forward. And then we are building a national mentorship network. It looks like it's actually going to go international at this point, so there will be access for anybody within the service. We're hearing a lot from, especially those executive leaders in smaller services. They do not have mentors within, and they would like to go outside of their organization to find that. So that's hopefully something that we'll be able to foster from this 30 Forward as well. Again, we're launching at Building Bridges on October 9th. We invite you to attend if you would like. I think some of these board members are attending. However, if people want to just come for the launch, you're welcome to do that on October the 9th at 3:45. So the last piece here, I just wanted to touch, how can you assist with 30 Forward? I think the biggest piece is you can encourage your police chiefs and deputies to sign that 30 Forward pledge. You can ask questions during strategic planning. What are we doing to recruit, retain, and advance women? How are we supporting mentorship and inclusive networks? What does our own data show us? And I do invite you to have a voice in shaping this work at the board level. You really do influence culture from the top down. And so the more services that get behind this visibly and vocally, the more momentum we're going to get. So, this pledge isn't about perfection. Everything is not going to be perfect when we launch in a couple of weeks, but it is about progress. So it's a roadmap that's research informed, it is Canadian built, and it really is grounded in the values that we most of us in this room and in this profession share, which is that service, trust, and that accountability piece. So I think I did that in my time allotted. So if there's any questions, we are here to answer those, and we'll hand the screen back over. Thank you.
Thank you, Inspector. That was actually, you had about 30 seconds left, so well done. Okay, members of the board, any questions for Inspector Gates? Okay, I'm not seeing any, but what I'm going to suggest we do is that we receive the report and refer to the service for their consideration, since it requires their potential action. So would a member of the board like to give me that motion, please? Thank you, Nav. Seconded by Ingrid. Thank you very much. All in favor? That's carried. So Inspector Gates, we are going to be forwarding it to the staff here at Halton, and we will have them respond in kind when appropriate. So thank you very much. Thanks for your hard work, and we appreciate you being with us this morning.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Members of the board, we have 2 items on our information reports. We have 3.1, which is the CSWB dashboard report, and 3.2, which is the new District 1 facility quarterly project update. Does anybody have any comments or questions?
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Ingrid, go for it.
Yeah, I just read the report with great interest. The part that I need a little more information about is Halton was recognized for quality by name data 4.0. What does that mean? Quality by name data 4.0, and it talks about being recognized by the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness as the first community in Canada to achieve Foundation's Quality by Name Data 4.0.
It sounds, we did have a discussion yesterday at the larger senior leadership group for CSWB with the region, and a presentation from the individual at the region that looks after all the homelessness issues. It sounds like it's related to that.
Through the chair, when we launched our community safety wellbeing plan, we attached epidemiology, a primary pillar, to how we do the work. And so understanding data sets available, aligning with the risk tracking database, provincial framework, allows us to have a baseline. And since 2017, we've been able to develop a database that really informs progress and investments in those different action tables and so forth. So I think what it's referring to is the fact that we invested early in data, and we've attached epidemiology to all of the action tables, and that what leads to greater outcomes in that regard.
Who keeps the data? Do we keep the data, or does the region keep the data?
The region.
The region keeps it.
But it is we are a key stakeholder in that. We will have our own database, but the community safety wellbeing plan and the action table pieces are a regional data asset.
We contribute to that too. We have regular sharing of that. They have access to a number of pieces of data of ours. Some of it is based on Halton Regional Police data.
So it references this milestone, that we've achieved this milestone.
Perhaps what we could do at the next meeting is get Inspector Dixon to draft a report.
Give
a more detailed overview of what that data looks like and how it affects and how it's connected.
Thank you.
So let's, we'll receive it, but staff have the direction to bring Sergeant Dixon.
Sergeant Dixon.
To give us a little bit more information on that. Thank you. Samira, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, my question is pertaining to report C-25-09102, which is the new One District Facility Quarterly Project Update. I'm very excited to see how well this is coming along. I appreciate the really recent August pictures. I can tell that it will be done very soon, and the community is very excited to function out of a brand new, shiny facility. Having said that, my question is about the current facility, District 1 in Milton. And I was wondering if there's any plans to reuse or repurpose that building. There's a lot of demand in Milton community for seniors places, youth facilities, and hubs. And I really have been pushing this forward at the regional level, on regional council, to see if there's any possible way of Milton being able to use it temporarily. But I wanted to check with you good folks here if you have your own plans about it.
Well, certainly through the chair, and I did not ask for this question, but it's always interesting when we vacate a facility. And I'll preface that by saying every time we build a new facility, we find ourselves funding them. And we fund them a lot through, if we're able to have reserve funds at the end of the year, or we fund them through operating budgets. So as we find ourselves in the great position of soon opening this new facility, I've said it's sort of like if we're dealing with your own home, and every time you buy a house, you pay for it, but every time you sell it, you don't get anything for it. I'm just speaking about the police service specifically. Certainly the funds flow back to police. I think there are plans for that property, probably multifaceted plans, where I believe some of it may be destined to be an expansion of Allendale or something in that vicinity. And then it ties in with a lot of property right along the main road where also homes have been bought up. So there's obviously commercial interest there, and that property is going to be worth quite a bit. It may be something that the board can explore through budget processes and discussions with the region, that could offset some of the costs of this new facility in Milton, Halton Hills, so that it lessens the impact on our operating or on any tie-in to our reserve fund. So you'll hear us talking a lot more about that as we move forward, but I think there are plans for it already. We had talked about whether we could use it for a while, for example, for immediate rapid deployment training for our frontline officers. We needed to do something before that, as the board will know from prior reports. We rented an industrial space that we were able to alter in such a way that we were able to do our training there. So at some point, we will not specifically need that facility, but I would like to have a financial interest in it.
Okay, good to know. Thank you so much for that well-detailed response. There is a lot of interest, like I said, from a lot of nonprofit groups who are, looking for space that is readily available. Just another last question. Would that facility require upgrades before it's even been able to use?
It would depend on probably the use of it. It certainly does need a lot of upgrades, and we're continually putting money into that building, particularly into leaking roofs and other things over the years, parking lots. So it would require definitely some further investment. I've never thought about keeping a property and renting it out to offset our budget, but just thinking out loud. No, I think it probably would need some modifications and expenses before it is sold by the region to someone.
Okay, good to know. Well, I can let you know that I have a list of very interested people. Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, real estate agent Samira. Nav, you're up next.
I was just joking with the board earlier. I'm going to miss the sirens. I live walking distance from that building.
I offered to have a recording done, so we
can still come by and do that.
Yeah, right in front of his house.
Yeah, so it just sense of, community safety. I'm curious, Samira brings up a good question, but who at the end is the decision maker on what happens or what is the end purpose of that building? Because, I know, a lot of people know that Wonder 6 moving. I've had questions. I'm sure Samira, being a counselor, has a lineup at her door, but just who has the end decision on what that land is going to be purposed or what the outcome is going to be?
Well, as I've said a lot of times in relation to our facilities, all of our facilities, including this one, police service building, which the police service funds, is a regional building. So the region of Halton owns all of these. We're basically tenants, but we fund it out of our budget. So that's where we get caught sometimes in the expense of these facilities. I think one goes to 2045 that will be funding out of operating and capital reserves if we have capital reserves. So it's interesting, and I've looked forward to, as we've said politically to the Halton Hills Council, we will always have a face in Halton Hills, obviously, too, and our officers will go to wherever they need to be. But in the meantime, I also don't want to vacate that building in Halton Hills, which is terrible, but it's still a facility, and eventually, and I would suggest probably within about 10 years, because of the growth of Milton, we are going to outgrow this new building that we haven't even moved into yet, because of how fast Milton's growing, and at some point we'll need another facility in Halton Hills, and it would be good to leverage the one that we already have there in that area towards assisting with the new one as well. So we will use that as a storefront. We made the Halton Hills Georgetown one. We'll use it for storage, perhaps. We may be able to lease space for storage, but we will continue to use that building. We're just not planning to use the one in Milton at this point. But I think the financial implications are interesting.
Yeah, because where I was seeing, on one of the graphs and one of the, you're showing the population growth in Milton. Once we let go of that building, it's gonna be hard to find place in town. Yeah. So if there's a foreseeable need, maybe 10 years down the road, it may be I don't know what it's in, but to see if we can have tenants there instead of giving up the real estate, so that way when we do reach to that space, we have that ability to just have that land. Because if we give it up, where else in Milton can we go? That's centralized, right?
Won't afford a new one.
Right.
Just because we're talking about my favorite topic, budgets. So we'll be paying for HQ till 2045. We'll be paying for the new building through 2054. And it costs us $6.8 million out of our operating budget every year to pay for those, just for that awareness piece. We are, to your point, one of the exercises that we're going to be doing this year the end of this year is looking at developing at least a 10-year capital plan in regards to facilities, because we know that growth is going to be required. We're already seeing us growing the buildings that we have, and it's even part of our budget coming up is how we're dealing with, ironically, after this last presentation, that we don't have enough lockers for women, because we are greatly expanding in that area. And it's just when we built these original buildings, we just didn't have this set up. So there is going to have to be a plan moving forward that we're going to be working on with Mike McMullen and Carrie leading it to get ready for that, because we're going to have to start saving money now to get that building in 10 years from now.
That's where my thought process was, because, for example, if we are able to rent that out, we could put that in our reserves till when we're ready to redevelop in Milton, right? The rental that I see in my professional experience, rental potential we can get from that building can be pretty excessive, right? So, and if we were just putting that aside for while you do your capital reserves, like if we're able to put that aside and pile it up for 10 years, we won't need to be tied for 30-year payments, right? So, no, that's it. Thanks for answering those questions. Definitely a lot to look into.
Further questions on either of the information reports? Can I get a motion to receive both of those, please? Thank you, Samira. Thank you, Nev. All in favor? That's carried. We're moving on to the meat of the meeting. That is our recommendation report. The first is the mid-year performance report. And Keith, are you going to lead us off on that?
Yeah, no, certainly. Thank you to our staff, Keith, and our analytical staff that put the majority of this together. Certainly a lot of the statistics, there's a lot of very positive statistics in here. I'll just highlight a couple of them, but overall crime is down 665 occurrences, which is 8.1%, but if you factor in the population growth and crime overall in Halton in the first 6 months of this year, decreased by 11.7%. Violent crime is up slightly, but with the population growth, it's actually down slightly, which is interesting. So really, the realistic measure is with the population growth. So violent crime is down 2%. Property crime is down 15.9% if you consider the population growth. And then my favorite, except last year when it was down, is the clearance rate in the first 6 months of 2025 for all those crime categories is up to 37.8 from 34.5% the same 6 months last year. And what we're seeing in that, and we've talked about this over the last couple of years, and particularly a lot of our thefts and our auto thefts were skyrocketing in 2023 and 2024, and property crime was going up substantially. And we confirmed this through the analytical team. As property crime is cleared or solved a lot less frequently than violent crime, and you get more property crime, then your overall clearance rates reduce. So a part of the benefit of property crime here is property crime has gone down, so those more unsolvable incidents are less, which of course make it possible to have a higher clearance rate as well. So we talked about that a little bit when we did some of our crime severity index comparisons recently with some of the Stats Canada information that were coming out for 2024. But overall here, and certainly Keith is here if anyone has any specific questions, Keith Moore, but I'll thank them for the report, and we're glad to report on the factors. Auto theft is also down. It's a little bit complex on how auto theft has reduced. It dropped about 13 or 14% in 2023, but in the first 6 months it was actually constant. So all of that drop was in the last part of 2024. And now we're down about another 20 or 22% so far this year. Home invasions are up slightly, but overall auto theft is down fairly substantial. So we're hoping that that continues. But I always say to people, and as we said this at I think during a discussion at the Victim Symposium the other day in Peel, yes, auto theft is down, but it was also up 300%. So we're down from an extreme high, which is good. We're moving fairly substantially towards the target for auto theft reduction in the board strategic plan, which was 50% during the life of the plan. Right now, I would say we're probably going to meet that or exceed it, hopefully. We're certainly on the right path, but it's a very good, positive report overall.
So this is going to result in, we're sending out a press release today, is that correct?
Yes.
Is that press release available for circulation to board members today, before the board meeting's over?
Sure.
Great, thank you. If we could do that, that'd be great. Members, questions? Samira's first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for that very detailed report. I'm really happy to see the declining numbers. Having said that, when you will release that press release, I will get residents reaching out questioning why we're seeing the numbers go down, but I know a neighbor whose house just got broken in. What do I say to these individuals?
Well, we still have too many victims. If you have one home invasion, if that's your house, that's 100% increase. It's not a 2% decrease in a population of 650,000. So we still have a lot of auto theft. It's just that it's reduced from an extreme high a year and a half ago. We still have break-and-enters. Break-and-enters have reduced overall in the first 6 months of this year, but we still have a fair number of break-and-enters. So we're still investigating every one of those and hoping to reduce them further.
Thank you, Chief, because I know this pertains to bail reform really majorly. I know that most of these criminals are repeat offenders, and some have been released on bail at least 5 times. So I just wanted to highlight that side of the problem too.
Thank you, and certainly the Victim Services Symposium that Deputy Hill and I were at the other day, and some of our victims were at, spoke very loudly about that very fact, and Premier Ford and others were there as well, calling on the federal government again for some of the changes to bail and to all sorts of things, including 3 strikes for violent offenders and a number of different potential federal changes. I've had some communication with one of our members of parliament. That is still in discussion. We're hoping for some things to come out from the federal government, hopefully this month, in relation to that. We'll see how far they go towards the actual things that are being asked for. Anything is good, but if they actually do a lot of the things that have been called for, I think it will help a lot.
Further questions?
Nadeem. Yes. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chief. It's great to see the numbers. I was just looking here quickly at the number, just for my clarity, in terms of the auto theft, do we have any specific number in terms of the recoveries? And when we talk about the auto theft crime, in your experience, do you think it helps because of the community awareness, plus some of the I would say car manufacturing dealers and others are putting anti-theft devices? Are those helping in terms of the recoveries and stuff?
Well, that's a couple questions. Auto theft devices do help. They don't prevent auto theft. So, for example, the club or things that people put on their tires can still be cut off, but it may deter someone to go to another vehicle. We've had, this year to date, 680 vehicles stolen this year so far. So that's down, as I think we were at 1,500 for an entire year 2 years ago. So we've had 680 cars stolen. We've had 370 that have been recovered. I know there is still work going on. That has nothing really to do with those numbers. I think there's at least 2,500 vehicles that are overseas and have been seized overseas, which the Canadian government and insurance companies are still attempting to bring back to Canada. But that's just a sign of the organized crime element and the ability to export stolen vehicles at great profit to international destinations. So we are recovering around 50% or just over 50% of the vehicles that are stolen. Not all are being exported. Some are chop shop type of enterprises where they're taking the vehicles apart and selling parts at great profit as well. So it's still a definite concern for us out of that.
Good deal.
Just the one thing about immobilizers, I would suggest, rarely disagree with the boss, but immobilizers do help prevent theft. We actually had an occurrence, I think it was yesterday, where the person had an immobilizer and helped defeat theft. So there is technology out there that does definitely help with that. We are making, you would have seen a media release where we recently did. We just finished a project on a person, well actually a crew of people that were stealing high-end cars, one of which was a Corvette ZR1. The specific color was, there's only 3 in Canada. Unfortunately, completely took it apart, left pieces of it on the side. Oh no. Corvette lover, that hurt me. But we do have teams still dedicated to this, and with the districts and the district teams and CIBs, we are making progress. And even just with the numbers going down, we're still making progress with our charges and recoveries as well. We've had a lot of recent success in that area. So.
Nadine, further questions? Samir, did you say no? No. Okay. I do have a question. So do we track, Samir raised a really good point. It's something that is certainly in the media, and we're hearing lots of people talk about the fact that there's so many repeat offenders that are on bail that are committing these offenses. Do we track that? Like, do we have statistics around that so we can clearly illustrate that it's not just conjecture, that it actually is backed up with statistics at our level?
I've had some discussions with some of our top analytical people, and they're looking at that and seeing how they can cross-reference some different reports that we do. So let me get back to the board with that.
Because I think that'd be a useful factor to really illustrate the extent of the problem.
The high-profile ones are easy. Remember, we had a carjacking in Burlington not too long ago. 2 guns were pointed at a lady that was driving a vehicle in North Burlington, and we got that vehicle back and the other stolen vehicle they were using and arrested both people. That was the whole incident where one of our K9 units was injured by one of the firearms. Both of them were on forms of release, and one was strictly, specifically prohibited from any firearms. Obviously no deterrent to them. So that's not to say that everyone is, and I think there is a trend as well, and we're seeing it maybe in some high-profile news releases in other jurisdictions, where very young people have been shooting people, where some of the gangs will go to a 12, 13, 14-year-old and employ them to do certain things, knowing nothing's going to happen to them.
Try to take advantage of the Young Offenders Act. Yeah.
Exactly.
And not all 12-year-olds are 12.
Deputy.
We are keeping some stats. You're going to see shortly our media release coming out about our offender management unit, intimate partner team. We're keeping stats in regards to who's out on bail and who's out on releases, how many breaches and all that. So there is certain areas that we already talked about. We met with some of our local MPPs talking about the bail compliance package that the province put out. So some of the feedback that we gave was in relation to better analytics, better data to help us and all the services kind of make it a little bit easier for us to do and to track and to kind of keep track of the work and effort that we're putting into this as well, including how many times we check on people and all that type of stuff. So it's definitely an area we want to improve on.
Yeah. Well, data tell a story, so the more data we have, the better to really understand the extent of the problem. Okay, I'll go back one more time to see if there's any more questions or comments on the report. Certainly some good news, but as I've been saying, notwithstanding the fact that crime in many areas is falling, it's still, any crime is too much crime. And while we need to be very thankful that we live in such a safe community, we need to remain vigilant everybody, whether it's on the delivery of public safety or the governance of public safety, we need to stay on our toes and continue to provide the resources and the support to make sure that we are not only preventing crime, those and bringing those to justice that commit these crimes. We around this table can be very happy that we live in a safe community, but to somebody who's been recently victimized or knows somebody's been victimized, they're not going to sing our praises at this point. So we need to be very cognizant of that. And while we appreciate the progress we make, there's still a long way to go. And we continue to call on both the federal and provincial governments to continue to devote the resources, the expertise, and the legislation to contribute. Very happy with the announcements recently from the province. And I know that the chief said this month, but it's actually, I believe the plan is to release it in October, so it's technically next month on the criminal code revision. So I'm got my fingers crossed and have had a few conversations too, so I'm hopeful that we'll see some good progress on that too. Yeah, thank you for crossing your fingers on our behalf. So with that, members of the board, can I get a motion to receive this report, please? Thank you, Nev. Thank you, Jane. And all in favor? That's carried. And hopefully, with this, we'll have the press release that will go out and share this information with the community as well. Okay. Let's move on then. Our next matter is the Bronte Harbor lease. The recommendation is there before you. If you have any questions, this is your chance to ask. Otherwise, I'll look for a motion to approve the recommendation. Samira?
Just moving it.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved. The recommendation is that all police board approve the execution of a lease of property at 2340 Ontario Street, Oakville, from the town of Oakville, an annual lease cost approximately $20,288. That's a really good deal. Congratulations, well done. I'm going to have to go back and talk about that. Plus taxes and additional rent that will serve as the Marine Unit Base Office and the Bronte Village Community Office. And further, that the board chair be authorized to execute an extension to the lease effective November 1, 2025 to October 31st, 2026 in a form acceptable to the service and the Director of Legal Services. That's the motion that you made, Samira, thank you. Is there a seconder to that? Ingrid, thank you. Comments, questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, item 4.3, Cozy Kids donation from the Domsey Foundation. Comments or questions on this? Chief, do you want to, or one of your deputies, do you want to frame this so the public understands what this is all about?
This gentleman is very generous. Member of our community, has for several years donated funds to the Cozy Kids program, which is a Christmas program run by our community services team, where we buy winter clothing for children in the community that otherwise may not have appropriate Christmas or winter attire. The gentleman has decided this year to increase the amount of his donation such that it requires by our bylaws and board approval. But I've met him personally here last year. We made a presentation was here in this room. Thank him greatly for his philanthropical spirit and getting back to his community. It's a very worthwhile program that we run to really build some inroads and trust with our community. We're very fortunate to have members of our community want to contribute to this program, help sustain it and grow it. This will allow the program to grow.
Well, let me call out specifically in the report, so I'm going to thank publicly John Domsey for offering this and supporting this wonderful initiative. That's his initiative. It's citizens like this that really continues to build that community spirit and the reputation that Halton has of being a great place to live, work, play, and retire. So with that, I'll look for a motion to approve the recommendation to accept the donation.
Mr. Chair, I have a...
Thank you for the promotion. You have the floor.
I didn't slip those.
Here.
Thank you. I will just echo the chair's remarks. I want to thank Mr. Domsey. As you can see in the report, this was started in Milton, and I can attest to the fact that it has made a big difference in the local community, especially for our new immigrant population that struggles to find appropriate winter clothing for their children, depending on when they land here. So if they did land after the winter sales were over, it's a big struggle to find the appropriate winter clothing, and this organization has made a big difference. So really thanking him for increasing his donation, and hopefully we'll continue to see a movement with citizens stepping up to fill the gap. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you, Samira.
Yeah.
Would you like to move it?
Yeah.
Since it was a Milton initiative. Is there a second to that from the other Miltonians? No, thanks, Is there further comments or questions? Oh, you're kind of Milton.
Half Milton.
Okay, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And thank you once again to Mr. Domsey for your incredible generosity. We truly appreciate it. Item 4.4 is the proposed 2026 Halton Police Board governance budget. Mr. CGO, do you want to maybe give us a high-level overview and then look for questions?
Sure, and I'll be referring to Jessica, who actually did all the legwork to put this together. So it does represent a significant increase, 31%, 32% almost increase from last year. The main reasons are, first of all, because in our 4-year cycle for strategic planning, we'll be coming up next year to that again, and the most expensive part of that is surveying, the public survey, which we outsource. There's also some changes to, we've got staff turnover. We basically need to replace somehow the capacity that the Region's Director of HR was providing at very reduced rates. And so we have an innovative way of approaching that. And of course, there's my own replacement coming mid-year.
We're going to talk about that.
So, and there's some cost to recruiting involved with that. So essentially that's it. Jessica, do you want to expand on any of that?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. Again, the bulk of the increase is that strategic planning consulting component.
Which I will reiterate is a statutory requirement that we maintain under the CSPA, and only years ago that used to be covered under the police services budget. So this is an effort to be transparent. We have included more things in our governance budget to demonstrate to the public the actual cost of governance, and a lot of those are moved over. For example, last year we moved over, I believe, legal costs from the services budget, and some of them, and so we're trying more and more to again demonstrate that transparency of what governance of the service costs while being fiscally prudent at the same time. So with that, members of the board, yes, I was just about to call for questions. Ingrid, you have the floor.
Just out of curiosity, how do we arrive at a tax rate of 1.76%? Where does that come from?
Carrie, are you familiar with that yet?
1.76. I mean, it's very low.
So it has to do with the compounding nature of provincial and HST. And we can only get reimbursed, the region only gets reimbursed so much, right? Am I right? Go ahead.
So through the chair, this is the net tax that we need to pay on any of our goods and services. So it's not full HST.
So it applies throughout the service?
Not to all costs, just to costs that we would pay taxes on, mostly materials and supplies, some goods and services.
A good low rate. Okay, thank you.
Just a question, in light of the budget pressures, and I should have asked this earlier, but is there any chance, like, when do we actually start hiring consultants for the strat plan? I know we're covered till 2027 on our strat plan. Do we actually have to start in 2026? I mean, I know this is I'm asking for your professional judgment on this.
Just a second. You could start it in 2027 or 2028.
I'm just wondering, in light of because we are facing budget pressures this year, and we had that battle. I won't call it battle royale, but certainly we had that serious discussion at the region about our budget guideline. I'm just wondering if it may be a good way to demonstrate some additional fiscal prudence in light of that, which I know came up after this budget was first drafted. If we could push that off maybe to 27, the expenditures.
You can push the strategic planning exercise by 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Members of the board, if somebody's willing to make that motion that we approve the budget with the amendment to push strategic planning into 2027, I would appreciate it. Ingrid, thank you.
Second, but I have a question.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're still open for questions.
Okay. Thank you. It's just actually a comment, and I know the viewers and the residents will see that there's an increase for board conference budget attendance and to aid in professional development for board members. I just wanted to clarify that this actually is a requirement by the Inspector General of Policing that there has to be a mandatory training. And so to accommodate that, you will see this come up. And when it comes to the communications part, it's the general public, you who are watching us, expect us to be transparent and to have constant communication on what we are doing and how we are managing your taxpayer dollars. And for that reason, we'd have to, under statutory requirement, increase a little bit of budget here too. So just wanted to provide that clarity, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Samira. Further comments or questions? Okay, so Ingrid has put the motion on the floor to approve the budget as presented, to approve the budget as amended. With $100,000 removed from this budget and deferred to 2027. And it's been seconded by Samira. Last call for comments or questions. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, moving along to our community funds disbursements. I will note that the chair of the committee did declare a conflict on one of the applications, but I'll just ask Mr. Chair of the Community Fund Committee, can you give us an overview of your report today?
Yeah, so we reviewed multiple applications, and we had, we were going back with some, but there was a motion that we wanted to add, a third point. A motion that the board, the service, and the region consider organizations similar to Sound of Music when reviewing their paid duty for public events procedures coming up. So there was an application put forward by an organization, in order to get support from the fund for paid duty. So we want to, pass a motion that the three parties work together to see what can be done to support similar purposes in the region.
Maybe just let me just address that a little bit to put some clarity to what Nav is referring to. There's been some very preliminary discussions about the cost of paid duty police officers as it pertains to publicly accessible, predominantly charitable events such as Sound of Music, Ripfest, Canada Day events, etc. And it's early days, and it's an initiative that I think was we as a board raised it a while ago, but the region has now amplified it because there's an additional concern about the cost of paramedics. And so the region and the service, the chair and myself will be having a conversation about the possibility of establishing some form of fund that can be accessed for this purpose. Because somebody still has to pay the paid duty officers, so there needs to be some form of fund to make that money available that doesn't come out of day-to-day policing. So that is what, it's early days and we need to get into those conversations. I'm going to suspect we'll have to start working on that soon so that we're ready for something in festival season 2026. But that's what you're referring to. And just further, the committee made the recommendation with respect to Sound of Music, not because we're not supportive of the organization, but because it wouldn't be appropriate to fund that through the community fund, and that's why we have to look for an additional or an appropriate venue for that.
Yeah.
So that's. I just want to put an amplification on that, so it doesn't sound like we're the Grinch.
Yeah. I just wanted to also add that the committee and the board, we've created an extensive policy, so we're trying to be consistent in the implementation of when we're looking at these applications. So I would encourage all the groups to take time to review the application and the policy. And sorry, Jessica, to put you on the spot, but if there's any questions, please reach out to Jessica. And, she's been very accommodating with, taking emails, phone calls to answer any questions. And we're willing to invest the time with you to kind of help understand. And then I'll just give a call out. October 27th is the cutoff for the next batch of applications.
31st,
October 31st, sorry, is the cutoff for the next batch of applications, which we will look to review in November.
And Jessica, if people are interested, where do they find that application?
It's on the main page of our website. There's a little button that says Community Fund Application.
Which is at haltonpoliceboard.ca.
haltonpoliceboard.ca.
Commercial.
haltonpoliceboard.ca, and the front page of the application process will go into very detailed outlines of the timeline and process.
Terrific. It's a public meeting, may as well take advantage of it, so let the community know.
Yeah.
Samira, you have a question? Oh, before I do that, and now you're declaring a conflict on G, correct?
Yes, okay. So I'm not voting on that.
So we'll call, when we come to the recommendation, we'll call the recommendation 1, A, B, C, D, E, F, point 2, and the new point 3, or 3.0, separately, and then we'll do G separately, so that you can absent yourself.
And just for the public, I also did excuse myself when the committee was reviewing that application.
Sure, thank you. Samira, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to thank my colleague for adding that third clause because it mentions and similar groups. And to that point, I want to highlight that we are facing similar challenges in Milton with regards to the Canada Day Festival and event, which unfortunately we were not able to hold last year. So really appreciate this initiative by my colleague. And I would like to request Jessica if she can perhaps read out the third clause just for clarity on what exactly it says.
So I have here that the board, HRPS, and the region consider removing paid duty for public events and festivals across the region of Halton.
So not removing, that it be referred to the region, the board, and the service to discuss opportunities to provide a fund to assist charitable and community organizations in the payment of pay duty security.
Okay, I will reword that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have clarity.
Can't remove it because somebody has to pay for it, and we have to be transparent and clear. So that's an important piece. Further comments or questions?
I do have.
Okay, sorry. I'll go to Nadine first, and then the chief.
So just a question to the committee here. So these are the only application we have, or we have many applications and we pick only these?
So we've updated the policy where we have cutoffs. So these are applications that came in for the last batch, and then there's more, from my understanding, that have come in that will be for the next batch. So because we can't, Jessica's done a good job of updating the policy with the committee and advertising, so we're getting a lot of volume. So now we've kind of had, 3 months cycle, so so groups are more than welcome to apply now, and we'll review it next time. These are the ones that made the cutoff for this thing.
Thank you. And just for the sake of just some background on this, and I'll come to the chief, the community fund was kind of this, I won't call it a secret, but it wasn't a very well-known fund that was available, and I think it used to be called the Stolen Bicycle Fund or something like that. It's had several iterations of names over the years. Yeah. It's effectively the fund that's created under law where the proceeds of bicycle auctions and other money that proceeds of crime, things like that end up in this account, and the board is vested with the power to distribute them for the purposes that we've set out in our policy, but predominantly, community organizations that have, you can connect the dots to public security and crime prevention, all those sorts of things. So for the longest time, nobody really knew that fund existed. A few organizations did, and they visited us on a regular basis, but we as a board, because we have quite a bit of money sitting in that fund, we as a board decided to take the initiative to actually publicize the fact that this fund exists, and because of that, you see this number of applications coming in now, and we're very happy to get them, but we've established a process to manage it properly instead of making knee-jerk reactions, and making sure there's accountability and transparency around the use of the funds, the follow-up with the funds use, limits to the funds, and guidelines about what it is we want to provide funds for within legislative authorities as well. So that's a bit of a background for anybody in the public that's watching, and again for our new colleague, just so that we're bringing everybody up to speed on that. Chief, you have a comment?
Well, there's one group that was denied based on, I think, the belief that it was not from Halton, and there was an address on the application that was not Halton, but it actually is a Halton-specific chapter. So I think I could just say to that group, clarify that and resubmit it.
Yeah, they have October 31st.
My notes from that specific application were that they had indicated that the funds would be used in Halton, but they didn't specifically say what the event would be. It was just that they would go to Halton. So if they want to outline exactly what it would be used for, then they can reapply.
We'll look after that.
That's good. Yeah, they have to the 31st to get it in.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to add that, like, anybody that wasn't granted this time is welcome to apply again, and we've asked, the committee's asked Jessica to give the group a reason why. It's not, we just don't, for example, we don't like this group, so we're not giving them, there's a reason, and if they address that reason, there's no reason from stopping them to come back and reply.
Thank you. Thanks for taking that initiative, Chief. That's great. I just do want to point out as well that that there's the second bullet on this is an amendment to the policy. Now, do you want to speak to that?
Can I ask Jessica or Ingrid to elaborate on that, just so I don't miss anything?
Yeah.
Well, that's the amendment to the bylaw, or the policy, I'm sorry.
Yes, so basically what we've done is, it's just a very brief amendment that basically gives the option. So it says the board may at their discretion consider requests from the Halton Regional Police Service. Requests will be sent to the manager of board operations and board chair, will be considered at the next available board meeting. Requests must demonstrate benefits to the Halton community and be in alignment with the HRPS strategic objectives. So if the service has something that they are organizing that would qualify for funds, they don't need to do the application process. They would send the request into our office and we would consider it at the next board meeting.
Terrific. It's an evolving process that we're trying to codify and make sure it's as efficient and effective as possible. Further comments or questions on this? Okay, the motion's been made by Nav with the exception of G. Is there a seconder to everything except G? Seconder. Thank you, Ingrid. Okay. Can I call the question on again, just for the sake of the minutes and clarity? Just pull it up here. So we're voting on clauses 1, 2, and 3. On 1, we're voting only on, at this point, items A through F. All in favor? Can I get a separate motion? That's a carry. Can I get a separate motion to approve 1G? Samira, thank you. Seconded by? Nadine, thank you. Any further comments or questions on that? All in favor? That's carried, and I will note for the minutes that Nav absented himself from the vote and did not participate. Okay, thank you for that. Item 4.6, external policing assistance policy. CGO?
Thank you, sir. So the role of the police board is the provision is to provide adequate and effective policing in the community in Halton Region. And that means to ensure that policing is going to be aligned with what the community needs, values, and expects. The board does that by first assessing those community needs, values, and expectations, then establishing direction to the service, then verifying the service's performance along with that direction, and then adjusting the direction as the case may be. So of the establishing a direction piece, there's 4 things the board does. The first is establishes policies regarding the provision of policing, like the emergency response ones we did in June. Establishes a strategic plan, which was mentioned earlier. which has specific outcomes for policing over a 4-year cycle. Establishing a budget for policing, which is to ensure sufficiency of resources. And the fourth element is assistance agreements. Assistance from other police services primarily. So this policy is about how those assistance agreements come into place and how the board verifies that they are sufficient and adjusts either those agreements or the budget for policing. This is a whole new area of visibility, transparency reporting in the legislation and the regulations, which has been, I'd say, fairly bumpy. And in fact, the OACP lobbied to simplify that. And there was a fair bit of simplification, but there are still some requirements. Essentially, now there are two types of external support. One is through standing agreements, which are board-to-board agreements for ongoing, occasional support. We have 3 of those. A 20-year-old one regarding public order with a couple other services. One from about 10-year-old or so appeal regarding policing the boundary roads. And more recently in June, a new one with 6 other police boards regarding tactical units, K9 and incident commander, I think. The policy serves to ensure that if there's any future standing agreements, such as a new one for public order or something like that, that the board is made aware of them early enough to ask questions, and if it deems necessary, to provide direction regarding the development of those agreements by the chief and staff, because at the end of the day, it's the board that has to approve them and authorize them. And it's not appropriate for that to be just signed here. The board deserves and needs to be involved in that process, at least have the opportunity. The policy regarding standing agreements also talks about reporting, and this is, by the way, in the reporting, first of all, the negotiations, Ken suggested that the chief be allowed to do that negotiation without explicit permission on behalf of the board. And I think that's a valid point, so that's reflected. However, at the same time, it's all equally valid that the board is aware of those agreements before the final document is placed before it. With regards to reporting on standing agreements, the board needs to have, is required in legislation to monitor and be aware of the use of the standing agreements. So I've simplified that as much as possible in consideration of the chief's concerns, so that what's reported is essentially a summary of what's happened to resource assistance to and from HRPS, and where there's a funding costs recovery or cost payments, that those are also reported. Currently in our 3 standing agreements, there are no cost payment or recovery provisions. However, those agreements state that a board may request such payment in advance of it occurring. So it's important that we have a provision in reporting for that. If, say, Hamilton was lending us at our request tactical assistance, and they said they want to be paid for it, we need to track that, and the board needs to be aware. It's also not just from a provision of policing perspective, but also for transparency about how the board is allowing the services to support other jurisdictions or leaning on other services to support ours. So currently the summary is non-specific, and currently the transfer of monies for those services is also non-existent in the standing agreements. The second part of it is these temporary assistance. So that is the infrequent and sometimes short order requests for support outside normal operations like joint operations or cross-border policing, cross-municipal border policing, which are exempted in there, and I hope that that satisfies Deputy Hill's concerns from last meeting. And those are initiated by the chief. There's a requirement to report those requests both to the Inspector General and to the board. The Inspector General's guideline is within 24 hours. So I've made a provision there for that notification as soon as possible. However, the board receives it formally at the next meeting rather than between meeting discussion or anything. You know, those temporary ones are totally on the chief's initiative. Same thing for any incoming ones. If Peel or Niagara ask for temporary assistance, it would be the same thing. Again, the board is obligated to monitor those. We'll cover those by receiving the temporary assistance requests at the next meeting, and we had a couple of those over the summer, right, Jessica?
Yeah.
And that's how we handled it. But then on a semi-annual basis, we'll look at the totality of them. Again, it's a general summary that's required in the report, and costing information if there were any costs associated. It is, to our knowledge, it hasn't been practice for temporary assistance to be paid for by the receiving unit in the GTA, or the province for that matter. Outside the OPP, the OPP do it on a fairly regular basis in a lot of cases for support. So that's where we are. I think it'll be evolving. I think it needs to be tested as the board considers new or future standing agreements, and as the board considers the semi-annual and annual reports on both standing and temporary assistance, which to date it has no visibility on. And that's one of the ways that the board will serve to fulfill its role of ensuring adequate and effective policing, as well as overseeing the interactions between services.
Any questions? That concludes your report?
Yes, sir.
Board members' questions? Chief?
Yeah, just one point, and Fred actually said something during that presentation, and thank you for all of the comments on this. In relation to costs, so my only issue, the way I was reading the current version, is under section 11, 12.2, 13.1, and 13.1.2, it talks about a need for me to report on any sort of associated costs. If we're talking about instances where we are actually required to make a payment to another service, or we're going to charge someone, I have no problem with reporting on that. I don't want to, all the times that we don't charge for them, and they might be very insignificant incidents, I don't want someone that's tasked with keeping track of everything that we do or every officer's time when it doesn't come down to dollars and cents. So I was going to suggest that a slight changing to the wording there to say any substantial or significant cost. But if we're actually talking about only any actual hard cost, then that's another way to deal with this. So I'll give you an example. And I believe in both of these. I had a little discussion when I met Ryan Teschner by chance, and there is certainly all of these are bona fide requirements for the board to do, save and except the actual cost part. It doesn't actually say under the policing agreements that the board has to track costs. The board can ask for different things or under the temporary system. So if I go to where we're looking at our tactical team agreements, and from time to time our tactical team goes to Mississauga to do a search warrant in the middle of the night, and there's a whole bunch of them going on, and we're taking part in this. I don't want to have the critical incident commander keep track of every person that's involved and how many hours they spend if we're never going to charge for that anyway or expect it back. And we'd be preparing a report that would summarize what we do, and we can say that. We can say our tactical team has been out of the region of Halton 6 times in the last 6 months doing search warrants. There was no charge or chargeback. That is easy for us to do, and I think would meet the requirements. And if it's substantial, if our team goes to another jurisdiction and they're there for 24 hours and there's overtime costs and different things, and we get into where we're going to want to charge for that, we'll keep track of that and do it differently. I just want some delineation between keeping track of every aggregate hour, which this potentially could be read as by someone, or costs associated with, because cost associated with doesn't necessarily mean that we're actually going to charge for it or pay for it. And I've been back here 13 years. We've never charged another service for our tactical team, and other services have not charged us if they've provided us with a piece of equipment, which we will ask for under these temporary assistance agreements. I think twice this year, maybe 3 times, or twice we asked another service and the OPP for a piece of equipment we don't have, because it would cost us $2 million to buy it, and they lend it to us for nothing. There's no cost with that, but it's fair that we report to the board, and that's a good example. If we had to borrow that piece of equipment, and then Ryan and I talked about this as well in Morgan, if we had to ask for that piece of equipment 50 times in a year, maybe it is an adequacy issue that this board would have to consider a budget to pay for. Or if we had to bring in a tactical team all the time because our tactical team wasn't big enough, maybe we should expand. That's why they want to keep track of some of these things. So my only, I don't want to say difference or suggestion is in relation to this. As long as we're clear that I am not required to keep track of every hour that we spend in another service or what that cost might be as compared to actual cost if we're charging back and forth.
Or policy as presented does not require that.
Sorry?
This policy as presented does not require that. The previous one did.
As long as the wording monitor and record all ongoing costs associated with, because we may have, if we send a team somewhere, there is a cost associated to that, but there is no charge, right? So I just want to make it, if we're all good with that, I'm good. I understand you're interpreting the same way as I am, President, which I think we're great. It just could be read by someone differently, so if we're all in agreement, I'm good.
It doesn't mean that the board won't demand that information in the future. The problem right now, Steve, is there's no visibility, so we don't even know how large this business is.
No, and I'm good with all that. We agree on all that.
Yeah. So, and it'd be different if we were getting public order support every month, like say Ottawa is, right?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question on this too? So that's Chair, I can ask my own questions, but help me. Let me ask this to help illustrate it. So if the chief authorizes to send the tactical unit to Mississauga to deliver
do a search warrant.
A search warrant, thank you. And it's during their day. There's no overtime. The only cost really is a little bit of gas. Would they have to report that versus we send the tactical team, it becomes a 12-hour exercise, now there's a bunch of overtime.
So that's a good example. So the tactical team is covered under the standing agreement with Hamilton and 5 others.
Maybe the bad example then. because that one is covered. But
Well, there's reporting though,
Okay,
at
okay.
the end of the year.
Sure.
And at the end of the year, that will go down as one incident that was called out for the tactical team. If there's no cost recovery requirements, which would only be initiated if the board or the chief through the board asked that this time they pay for it, right? That would be the only time.
And that's when it will be reported.
Right.
Okay.
And you have to, in that standing agreement, it says you have to say that before the action. You don't say afterwards, oh, here's the bill. And if it's temporary, which wouldn't be tactical, but say ground search, something like that. Your helicopter because theirs isn't working.
Most of what we do that would be temporary right now in recent years is lending investigative support to a neighboring jurisdiction because it's one of their members that might be a suspect in something, or an internal case that's a little bit more complex or potential conflict of interest, and we help each other back and forth on those. We've never charged for them, and we would do them as temporary assistance now, and we'd do a letter, and the other person would agree, the other chief would agree, and we'd share it with the board and the IG, but there's not gonna be any cost. So as long as we don't have to, so as that example, under temporary, not covered by an MOU. And we could do an MOU for internal investigations and take it to a different level.
Yeah.
As long as we're doing that, and I don't have to say to Inspector Dodds and the staff sergeant, keep track of every hour and what that might cost because I need to report on it, where I only need that if we are gonna charge for it.
Not currently.
Then I'm good.
Not currently, but
Yeah, that could change.
exactly. So at the end of the year, if our tactical team's spending more time in one of our neighbor organizations than here, the board might have a different view.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think that's, at least ballpark, what's that costing?
And that's what that's the beauty of this, because we'll actually see that in this law, right? Okay.
Exactly.
But let me, because it provides transparency. Let me take that example I gave you earlier. So let's say in the case when you send a tactical team or you send any kind of you deploy any kind of investigative team, you assume that they're going to be able to do the work while they're on shift and during their 12 hours. But if we go over that and now we're incurring extra cost, can we then request that reimbursement? Because if it's already covered, they're already being paid, it's on their shift, there's no extra cost to the service, I get that. But in the case where you've got an extensive amount of time, more than, that actually costs our service more money to service Peel, would that not be reportable and billable?
If it was a really substantial investigation or incident and cost, we might.
Okay.
But in all of these situations, let's use the internal investigation example. We're going to we probably do 2 in the next year for Hamilton, and they'll do 2 for us.
Yeah.
And some of it's going to be overtime and some of it won't, but it won't be worth adding it all up. But if there is a major thing and we're sending 2 investigators over there for a month,
well, see, that's
totally different.
That's one thing I'd be curious about. So, I know that at one point, Deputy Hill was telling us about the cost of a particular murder investigation was 4,000 man-hours. If we did that on behalf of another service, obviously there's a huge cost to the service. Would we be in a position to reduce those costs if it was such a scenario?
But to Fred's point, in that situation right now, we would say to that service, you're asking us to do this, and we're going to have to charge you for it.
That's right. That's what
we're going to cover it off 2 ways. So.
That's not a cover under quid pro quo. I understand the concept of you investigate one, we investigate one, it's a wash, but I'm concerned about those one-off cases when we have a specialization in an area. We provide that, or we have extra capacity and we provide that, but it exceeds what is reasonable. There needs to be a way to protect the taxpayers of Halton to cover those costs.
Absolutely, and we'll always do that. And our cooperation is in the GTA, especially with the 6 closest services here, we basically keep score.
Okay.
Sure, we know when somebody.
Sure. Now we're asking to see that score.
Yeah.
Right?
So we're good.
And the most prolific example of where there is a cost recovery is public order, because it's very expensive to send the big public orders. And they're often not reciprocal, because it's the same jurisdictions that are requesting assistance all the
Because
time.
only some services have it, and it's a large number of people that go, and that's a nice segue to discussions about the budget in a couple of weeks.
Let me ask one more question, an actual example. Then I'm sorry, I know Deputy you wanted to speak, so I'll get to you in just a second. You don't want to speak? Okay. Let me just ask you an example. So in the case of, for example, when we sent a group of officers to the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa a couple of years ago, obviously those costs exceeded what would be normal day-to-day operational costs. Did we bill Ottawa?
That was actually totally different and unique, but ahead of time, the city of Ottawa indicated they were covering every cost, every officer, wages, hotels, food. So it was all done ahead of time, because of the exceptional circumstances of that. Yeah.
Because that's one that would obviously be expensive, because of travel and accommodations.
The city of Ottawa paid for that outside of the police budget. It was the city of Ottawa.
Okay. But there was somebody that was accountable in terms of the cost.
It was all paid, yeah.
Okay, terrific. I mean, you could argue that that's a national cause and everybody should contribute to that too, but I think that's just a great example. Deputy, thank you for being patient.
No, when you speak about overtime, it is something that we do address when we do our secondment agreements. So we participate in a lot of provincial teams because we have to do our part. So we cover off the overtime, but the other service may be paying for the actual base salary of our employee, but we cover the OT.
Okay.
So those things are covered off, though, when we do the secondment agreements, and it's addressed in there how that's going to be. And then overtime on its own, we track. So I can tell how much, for example, we participate in the biker strategy or the provincial weapons. And I can see how much money, or rope, for example. I can see how much overtime that they're running, but our salaries are being covered. So there is a tracking of it, but it's an ongoing thing that's just part of being part of a provincial team.
Got it. You're really embracing this finance thing.
Not completely against my will.
He is. He actually is.
You're talking like that. You're talking like
completely against my will.
Okay. I'm done with my questions. Members of the board, any further questions or comments?
Ken has a question.
Thank you, and thanks, Fred, for all our conversations on this.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if it gets derailed now. Ken?
For
The lawyer has to speak.
the board votes on this, there are a couple of typos.
Oh.
I just wanted to point out, it's just the section numbers got got reversed in 13.1 and 13.2.
Okay, thanks.
That's all. I
appreciate that.
Okay.
We'll double check that. I think you pointed that out before.
No, it wasn't in your first draft, Fred.
Maybe I changed it because of somebody's feedback, changed them on it. Anyway,
Okay.
thanks, Ken.
Ken gets the Eagle Eye Award for today. Congratulations, sir. Okay, so that's the conversation that I can see at this point. Is there any other feedback from the other deputies? Anybody want to get a piece of this? No? Okay. And we totally upset Jeff. Can I get a motion to approve the recommendation, please? Thank you, Samira, Nadeem. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, everybody. That was a good conversation. I just timed out here. 1 second. Okay, moving right along, we are at the point of 4.7, which is board members' expenses. Jessica penned this, but I'll frame it because it was my request. At our last CAPG conference, Canadian Association of Police Governance, it's a conference convention for governors. We attended in Victoria, and while we were there, Air Canada went on strike. And a number of our members had to incur expenses above what is currently in the policy for additional airfares, additional hotel accommodations, rental cars, in some cases additional food. That would not normally be covered in our expense policy. So I asked Jessica, because that's not fair to ask for board members to cover those unexpected force majeure expenses. So I asked Jessica to write a policy amendment, and that's what's in front of you today, to make sure that we keep our team whole when those unexpected things pop up. Members of the board, do you have any comments or questions on what you've been presented with today? Jessica, did I explain that adequately?
Yes.
Okay, terrific.
It will never be put to use.
It may never be put to use, but I mean, it was a surreal conference. It was interesting. We were sitting there, and I remember all of a sudden all our phones started buzzing that they're shutting down all the services, and it felt like a zombie movie when the zombies were approaching and everybody got up and left in the middle of the conference. So it was a very strange experience, and so everybody was scrambling to find flights home, and some of our board members ended up, with rather expensive flights or spending more time in Victoria than they expected to, and it was unfortunate. Okay, members of the board, I need a motion to approve this policy. Ingrid, seconded by, is there a seconder? Nobody wants to second this?
Oh, Jane.
Okay, Jane seconding it? Boy, I didn't think that one would die.
It's for our own benefit.
For the record, I flew Porter. Chief, did you have a comment?
Well, we planned ahead of time for this meeting, so we had our conference first.
Fine.
Right.
That information.
Maybe the Canadian Association Chiefs of Police can share their crystal ball with us next time. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? The policy is carried. Thank you. 4.8 is the procedural bylaw. This is another report from our very busy manager of board operations. Jessica, do you want to give us just an overview of this, please?
Yeah, so we're just tightening up the procedure bylaw a little bit to just ebb and flow with how we do presentations at the beginning of meetings, because very frequently the service has presentations, or like today we had an external presentation, and they can get quite lengthy. We've had presentations sometimes go for well over an hour, and it's all wonderful material, and it's very much of interest to everybody. However, what happens is after we are done with the public and confidential sessions, we do have a board-only session, and very often we run out of time to complete important governance business. So we are just tightening up the restrictions around presentations, and it's very clear in the procedure bylaw. You can see there's track changes, just what the process will be on how we approve those going forward.
That's great. Thanks, Jessica. Comments or questions? Appreciate your diligence, Jessica. That's great. Can I get a motion to approve the recommendation, please? Thank you, Samira. Thank you, Nadeem. All in favor? That's carried. Operational verbal updates.
Just a couple. We had the Ride to Remember came through here yesterday. It was the first day, so they would have left the Ontario Police College yesterday morning early, got here in the afternoon, and then on to Toronto. They'll be between Toronto and Belleville today, and then Toronto, and then Ottawa. They'll arrive on Saturday. There's also the Run to Remember. So we have cyclists in the ride, and we have runners in the run. The run actually starts from Toronto today, I believe. And then it will culminate on Parliament Hill on Saturday. Our senior executive team will be there this weekend for the National Police Memorial. We do have some interest from our local MPPs and others to join us at that, which will be quite nice. But we'll see who is able to make it there on Sunday morning. So Sunday morning we'll be on Parliament Hill. The only other really
Parliament Hill or the Legislative Assembly, Queen's Right? Parliament Hill, or is it in Toronto or Ottawa?
Well, this one's Ottawa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Toronto was earlier in the year for the Ontario Police Memorial.
Sorry, I had them backwards.
And we have now somewhat of the official announcement for the new courthouse. So the courthouse, we have all been working quite a bit on speaking with different people about that over the past couple of years since the first plan was put on hold. So the new Halton courthouse is back on the table. It will be coming to Oakville. I don't believe it will be anywhere other than the original site. That hasn't specifically been said. And now they're into some planning stages. I'm hopeful that they don't drag that out to be 2 years of planning, and that we can fast track this somehow. Otherwise, we'll be 5 years before we see it, but at least it's back on track. And thank you to the province and the Attorney General and others who have put that back on the table. So it's much needed and on so many different levels by our people, by Crown attorneys, by the justice system. So that's a good news thing.
Let me stop you there for a second before we go to the rest of it. I just want to say thank you, Chief, for your leadership on this, because I truly believe that it was your dogged determination to make this happen that really made it happen. The amount of lobbying and letters that you wrote and interviews that you did, and really making this a cause that was important to your team, I think really made a big difference to the province. We had an inkling this was going to happen earlier in the year, and I think that we owe you a debt of gratitude for the work that you've done, and to our board too, because we took an advocacy position on this as well, and we wrote a letter and circulated it to our peers and sent it off to the various ministers and the premier. So I mean, there's a lot of people that own a piece of this, but your determination on this, I think, has had a big impact on achieving this result. So thank you for doing that on behalf of everybody in Halton Region.
Thank you.
Further verbal updates?
Just one. Through the chair, if I could circle back to the question from Board Member Hahn around the data, the homelessness data. I was able to secure a bit more information from Inspector Dixon, just to kind of explain it a bit further. So essentially, we are part of the action table on homelessness in Halton Region. We're a key contributor to that action table. Our constables from our community safety wellbeing team sits on that action table. And the region, with our input, has created a very comprehensive strategy around homelessness in Halton Region. It was rolled out last summer. It's a very collaborative approach to homelessness involving a number of public agencies, including municipal agencies, ourselves, Halton Regional Police, a number of regional entities, Health Department, and others, working collaboratively to address homelessness. As part of that strategy, there was a coming together, so to speak, of the data, particularly around individuals, to share the information, to share it in one centralized spot. We were a big part of that, and why that's important is by doing so, the individuals that are unhoused get a much better coordinated service. So instead of having different agencies working in silos trying to help the same individual, there's better collaboration now. This Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness has recognized Halton Region as the first community to achieve that status of that collaborative approach. That is the milestone itself, is the fact that Halton Region has been recognized. The data that on homelessness, we are a key contributor to that. As the Chief alluded to yesterday at the Senior Leadership Group meeting of the Community and Safety Wellbeing structure, Daryl Cater, who is the Director of Housing for Halton, he made a point of singling out Halton Regional Police as one of the lead agencies that is collaborating on this issue, and he commended Halton Regional Police for taking a very progressive, service-oriented approach, collaborating with other agencies. For example, when there is a homelessness encampment identified in any of our municipalities, the police work in conjunction with social services from both the city and regionally to do everything possible to support these individuals and find solutions to their homelessness. So the milestone, just to clarify, the milestone is the fact that we have all come together to share that data to better serve our unhoused population. So I hope that explains it with a bit more simplified language.
Thank you, Deputy. It's good because we played such an important role in the entire endeavor. So it's good to know that we have such a great vision for those achievements. Thank you.
Chief.
Yeah, no, just further to Kevin, he highlighted so many times his thankfulness to members of the service that are taking such a significant role in homelessness and addressing some of the issues, and spoke specifically to encampments. And when I hear encampment, I think of totally different things. I think we responded to 56 encampments in Halton Region, but when we talked about that further within, most of our encampments are one tent. And it is an encampment, I suppose, but it's not like we're seeing in other jurisdictions. So I think we're getting as much as we can ahead of that curve. We have homelessness in Halton for sure. We have a lack of beds and space for people in different situations that they're also working on. He's quite a interesting and incredible and very energetic person in that area. It's almost, his energy is almost surprising, and his interest in helping, but it definitely is making a difference here. So, and Alex and our new CEO were very complimentary.
And we have an advantage here in Halton, because as we look across Canada, it is a serious issue, encampments. You have to go to Toronto, right?
Absolutely.
So we are very fortunate. Thank you, Chief.
I just want to, because this is a public meeting, I want to be very clear on this. It is a serious issue across Canada, no doubt, and we definitely see that at our CAPG conference when we see some of those presentations. But it is still a serious issue in Halton. We are lucky it's not as bad, but it is still a very serious issue. My wife, works in that world every day, and I've been to some of those encampments, and I've helped. I've driven people to shelters, but it is still a serious issue. So we don't want to understate that. We are lucky that we have such great supports in Halton region, both from the regional community services staff, the regional police service, and all the NGOs out there that are really putting their hearts and souls into this issue. So while I understand what you meant, I just want to state for the public that we're not, just like on the statistics, we're not patting ourselves on the back and saying we're done. We're saying that, we understand that there's a significant issue. We have great resources to help. We're not perfect, but we're doing good work, but it's not enough yet. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Very sensitive to me about that issue. So, Samira.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just also wanted to highlight some of the folks who say, well, where are the encampments in Halton? And I would say sometimes it's invisible. Sometimes it's due to couch surfing, and people are just one day away from being in an encampment. So I just wanted to highlight that too.
I think I heard a statistic at one point. I don't know if it's still true, but when I used to chair Health and Social Services, somebody from, I think it was CAMH, or was one of those organizations, said that all of us are no more than 6, you know the statistic, 6 life incidents from being basically destitute and homeless. So we need to keep that in mind that, but for the grace of God, we are here in this room, everybody in this room has a place to go and people to support us, but that's just not the case throughout the community. So thanks for your sensitivity on that. And thank you, Deputy, for that report. Anything further from the bench? Roger.
Good morning to the Chair. Just a quick update on some investments we're making provincially in the space of artificial intelligence. About a year ago, the OACP sanctioned a body of work to form a working group, now standing committee. Just received the terms of reference from that. And the reason I bring that up here is because it's through the tremendous leadership of our own IT Director, Bill Payne, and Manager Adam Woods, who have helped contribute to that space. We really think this is going to help consolidate efforts, brain think about certain pieces of where AI can be a risk and how it can be an opportunity and investment, and how we make sure that we bring the right stakeholders, including boards, to the table to advance what AI can do for policing. So I just want to highlight and thank Bill in front of the board for the work. Again, one more corner of the desk item for Bill and the team to have to navigate, but
a darn big desk.
It's huge, yeah. But I just want to thank you for that, because as much as it will be an investment and an advancement provincially, we will reap the benefits here in Halton through his leadership. So thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill, and thank you, your octagonal desk, for managing all these projects. Well done, and thank Adam for us as well.
I will. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Okay, that wraps up. Did you want to be part of it?
I never like to speak in public, sir.
That's not true. We don't let them. Okay, that wraps up our Operation Verbal Updates. Mr. CGO, our action registry.
Just one item, the annual report policy.
Right. Will we add something about the clause 3 from the community funds piece about the pay duty funds concept? Okay, yeah, so that'll go on there next time. Okay. Motion to receive the action registry, please. Thank you, Jane. Everybody's hands are tired today. Nadeem, thank you. All in favor? That's carried. And we're not even close to being done yet, so exercise those muscles.
You want to give Nadeem an opportunity to get his name.
That's true. First motion of the day.
You're urging.
Am I urging? You've received public correspondence. I'll look for motion to receive the public correspondence from the last month.
There's none.
There is none? Oh, you're right, there's no. Oh. I get a lot of correspondence, I just assumed that was all log, but maybe.
It's rare that it's none.
You wanted status of the implementation reports next month.
Yeah, to the log, okay, good. Then we have no public correspondence, there's nothing to vote on. Under new business, does anybody have any new business to report? Ingrid?
I just want to mention two things. As I was driving here, Solicitor Kersner was being interviewed with the CBC, and it may be something we want to go back to. The three topics of conversation were going to be the justice system, the bail reform, and the state of the prisons. It's something we want to follow up. And for those individuals that are viewing our board meeting today, there's a shred event on Saturday here at police headquarters starting at 9 a.m. through Crime Stoppers.
So it's a good opportunity to avoid that identity theft threat that exists by shredding your documents for a donation to Crime Stoppers, which is a great cause.
In a safe way.
In a safe way, yes. And it's you get to see that mass of volunteers that come out and do it. Quite the spectacle. Any further new business? Okay, I have two things. First of all, just I want to mention to the board that you really have to take a moment at some point, and there's lots of opportunities to visit the Ontario Police College for one of their graduation ceremonies. I had the privilege of being there recently, and it was quite an exciting day. It was particularly exciting for me because of the familial connections, but seeing that that graduation was so inspiring, and to hear the officers and to see that sea of new officers out there in that room was it was a wonderful experience. So I would, if you're interested in going, I know that there's opportunities for board members to go and witness it. The sandwiches were okay. A little sweaty, but the event was wonderful, and just understanding the entire package of what we are all about, what we do. This is really like one of the most important aspects of policing, is training these officers. It's a really amazing facility. So I highly commend all of you to consider taking the day trip to Elmer. It's not that far, and I think you'll be inspired like I was at that event. Second piece of new business, to the service team, the board is working on our compliance to the CSPA changes now, and we would just ask that the service get that on your radar as well. So an update on not compliance, but what's the word looking for? Implementation of CSPA changes. We'd like to see a report in due course from the service, and we mentioned it now so we can get it on our action registry as well.
So when do you want that scheduled?
Springing this on you, I'm sorry, but what would this look like in terms of timing?
You say spring?
Spring?
It's springing. Is that like spring?
Springing.
I don't know, how soon would you want something? Year end, or?
And we could have it by November. Can we get it by November, do you think? That's what we're gonna.
I'll be doing one on the policy side of it,
Yeah.
and if you can let me know who's doing it on your side.
Ken. I haven't talked to Ken yet.
Well, that would just be
Surprise!
There's separate reports, but there should be some linkage.
There are some different things in it. We've just been talking about, just as one budget item, a requirement for us to do a certain type of training, which means we either hire expensive actors for multiple events, or we spend $400,000 on a virtual reality solution. And it's all just not spring, but sprung on us. So that's a substantial cost, but there are a number of things that we are in a good position as far as the CSPA. There are some specific costs associated with some of the training.
Okay. there will be lots of question marks in this too. It's really an update of where we stand on the implementation of this, because I know there's the whole C8 issue as well that I don't think is fully resolved yet either. But I think it's good to get a progress report on where we are with this. And as I mentioned, the board team is working on it as well. So from our perspective. So can I get actually a motion to direct staff to produce that report, please? Thank you, Jane. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Nadeem. All in favor? That's carried. So we're capturing it, so it's on our action registry so we can track it. Okay, members of the board, it's time to move. Oh, last call for new business. Anybody over there? We're all good? Nothing's new? Good? Nothing from the board? Okay. We're going to move into a session closed to the public, and I do not have my...
I emailed them to you.
You just emailed it to me. I have to read the statement of why we're going into... Jessica's enforcing the paperless office on me. That's good. We are going into a session closed to the public so that the board can consider matters pertaining to identifiable individuals and information that Section 8 of the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, also known as NFIPA, would authorize a refusal to disclose if it were contained in a record. So that is the motion I'm looking for. Can I have that, please? Thank you, Nav. Thank you, Jane. All in favor? Okay, it's carried. It is 11:10. I'm going to call a recess until, let's reconvene at 11:30 and give everybody a chance to stretch their legs, because I stretch this out a little farther than I normally do. I'll just take a break and then we'll come back and close session. So to those who are departing for the day, thank you for your time and attendance. To members of the public, I just want to let you know that this ends our Halton Police Board stream today. We're moving into a closed session. We appreciate your interest in the affairs and conduct of the board and the police service, and your attention to it on our live streaming channel. If ever you have any questions, never hesitate to reach out to me as the chair@haltonpoliceboard.ca, and you're always welcome to visit our website to learn more about your governance of the Halton Police Service at haltonpoliceboard.ca. Thanks, everybody. This meeting is in recess. Yeah, if I was needed. No, I've got a good team. There's my staff around the window. Here's pictures of that's what it's been.